And let me tell you why.
Tell me.
You said, out of everything we've been going for an hour and 25 minutes, out of everything that's been said for an hour and 25 minutes, you said, I'm so sorry.
Fauci's going down.
No, I am so sorry. You said
Can't
out
get
of
a
an
break.
hour and 25 minutes, you said, I think Trump's right for not apologizing.
As a tactic.
And you're using his tactic. You're using his tactic.
I did not do anything
Chris,
that warrants an apology.
Okay,
can we go over some more?
Well, no, guys, we're moving on. We're not staying on this thing. The only thing I'm saying is the following. You know when you're sitting here saying, they can't say this and the ivermectin this and they didn't have the research and they didn't have the research. Dude, we have 9 months on COVID and everybody's talking about taking it and we're being forced to take in all this other stuff. We didn't have any research on this thing. Warp speed, the whole levels to be able to go, no, yeah, go ahead and take it, guys. If you don't, shame this is. So that's a mistake, bro. That's a mistake. And then at the same time, like if you screwed up, boom, let's move on and go to, at this point, I know it's not going to happen. So I want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors. Can you please have a guy named Tucker, who's our sponsor here? He's got a couple of words to say. Go ahead.
Since I was doing the same thing. I wasn't working on a construction site when I was 25. I was in the political media in Washington. And I stayed there from 1991 to 2020. So
you'll hear.
I look back at myself and I'm like, I can't believe, for example, I supported the war in Iraq. Why did I do that? Now, I think to my credit, I went to Iraq in 2003 and realized I'd been completely wrong. And I said so. I didn't continue to lie. But I did go along with things I was uncomfortable with. I didn't ask difficult enough questions. And I wound up supporting something that was really bad for the United States and evil, in my opinion. So why did I do that? Part of it was I was young and stupid. Part of it was, I think, if I'm being honest, this was not conscious, but it's still true. I felt vulnerable. I had at the time 3 kids. I've got a mortgage. Like, do you really want to pick a fight with everybody when you're 31 and you're just trying to pay tuition and keep your shit together? Maybe you don't. And I think it's an age thing to a certain extent. Like at a certain age, whatever it is, if you're in the same business, and you feel like you've sort of done what you set out to do, you're like, I don't really need to impress anybody at this point. I'm not, in debt. Speaking for myself, I'm not rich. I will never be rich. I'm pretty sure of that. But I'm not in hock to anybody. I don't owe anybody anything. And my kids are grown. So it's like, why would I ever lie? I'm just in a different place. And so
Okay. So, by the way, if you read into what he said, I played along because I didn't want to go up against everybody,
right?
Because I needed to make money, because I had to support my family, because I had to. And this is a guy that his show flopped on MSNBC. They were not watching it. I think he was before Maddow, whatever the show at the time was, that they had to move on and come back and make a resurgence, and boom, goes and becomes number one, 3.3 million views on a nightly basis, does well for himself, makes his money, and now you know where he's at right now. You know what he's got? You know what he's got right now. Oh, let me tell you what he's got right now. He's got this thing. This the only thing in there that he kind of went like this a little bit too quickly. He's got this thing called FU money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think he's had it all the time.
And Joe has this thing also called the FU money. And it's funny that both of them had to kind of go through the process of that to have the FU money. And I think it's a great example for us to do that. Now I want to transition to other stories, but here's what I do want to do. If you're watching this, the way you get to vote for today's debate so far, we got a bunch of other issues we got to talk about right now with Trump, convicted felon, migration, dual citizenship. I'm not done. We're just getting started right now. You get to vote by sending a Manect to Dave Smith and to Chris Cuomo. If you can put their Manect up, ask him any questions, anything you agreed with, disagreed with, papers, articles, whatever it is. This is the way to get connected with them. They're both on Manect, and they actually get back to people very quickly. I actually think Chris is top 3 fastest to get back to people on Manect, and I think out of everybody, he's got 100% 5-star except for one. And Dave Smith gets back to people quickly. By the way,
you gave me a 0, you bastard.
All right, let's go to the next. We're not getting the apology tonight, folks. So afterwards, we'll get our part. That's all good. All right, let's go to the next thing. Unless if you want a last chance to apologize. If you don't, we can skip this thing. All right, let's go to the next story. You gave me the look that he doesn't want to do it. All right, Tucker. Trump. A convicted felon. Reaction to it yesterday. Let me just read some of the stuff. 34 counts. We know it. Up to 136 years he can go to jail. The $130,000 payment to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels, et cetera, et cetera. When you saw that, Dave, your reaction to it?
Well, I mean, look, and I know this is like a disclaimer, but it is just the truth because just so you guys know where I'm coming from, I am not a Trump supporter. And a lot of my audience wishes I was. I've been a sharp critic of Donald Trump through his entire administration, not for the reasons that the corporate press is a critic of Donald Trump, for different reasons, but look, this is just so obvious. I mean, for anybody who's being honest with themselves, look at this. This is a maybe misdemeanor that they have.
Timestamp.
It's a glorified misdemeanor that they've turned into 34 felonies.
1 hour,
It is
28
totally
minutes, and
appalling.
5 seconds.
This is a result of the justice system being weaponized, and they had this in New York where they know. I mean, getting a jury to convict Donald Trump in New York is pretty easy. People hate his guts there, and it's a major moment in the history of the United States of America. You know, one of the things that I hear a lot of Trump critics will say, which to me is the most, you ever hear the red pill, blue pill analogy? Like, in the Matrix, you either have the red pill or the blue pill. It's the most blue pilled thing I've ever heard, where they go, no president is above the law. You go, except all of them are. You know what I mean? Like, all previous presidents are above the law, and there's been major crimes committed by presidents throughout the entire history of the United States of America. I mean, obviously, people know that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney instituted torture. Barack Obama had American citizens drone bombed without charges pressed against them. I mean, there's all types of things that you could prosecute former presidents for, and there's all types of war crimes that you could prosecute Donald Trump for. But they don't go after him for that, because then their next guy would be open to being prosecuted for war crimes. So they're going after him for every little thing that they can get. Look, the United States of America, our government has done some bad things in our past. We've lied the American people into wars many, many times. World War I, Vietnam, Iraq. This is something different. We've never done this before. We've never weaponized the justice system against a former sitting president of the United States who, by the way, was framed for treason by his intelligence agencies while he was president. And now they're weaponizing the Justice Department against him while he is the overwhelming frontrunner to win the next election. It's a truly wild time to be alive.
What if I told you investing wasn't just for the suits and ties? It's for everyday folks like you.
Chris.
The reason they don't go after presidents is because of presidential immunity, which they're litigating right now. So the idea of you make war decisions and this and that sounds great. Let's get them. It's not how the law works. It's never worked that way. That's why you haven't seen it. I agree with your analysis of this case. I've never liked it. I don't like that Bragg jumped the line because I think that he wound up ruining what was a legitimate legal look at what happened in Georgia, which now I don't know that it's going to happen because of that immunity argument, although I think it will lose. This was a misdemeanor that was trumped up to felonies. To call it 34 counts is laughable because the 34 counts are different checks that were signed to pay back Cohen. This district attorney has no problem knocking down significant felonies to misdemeanors. He did it 70% of the time. Now, the people of New York City can judge him, and if they like the policy, he made an argument why he was going to do that. But the same guy who does that then did this to Trump. He campaigned on going after Trump. And you don't make this case against anybody else. And the same thing goes for the Attorney General in New York. And yes, she went after my brother, so maybe I'm just saying it because she did that. I'm not, but, have at it. You don't bring the case of 2 sets of books that you brought against Trump. Did he have 2 sets of books? Yes. Did he have Michael Cohen pay off these ladies and try to hide it? Yes, he did it. Should it have been prosecuted as a felony? Absolutely not. Does it embolden his case that everything that happens in America is corrupt? Yes, and I think that's a big tragedy. So what does this mean to him? My analysis of it is this. The only way it hurts him is if in specific states, people who are called persuadables right now, which is really not fair because what they really are is, in my interviews with these populations, I don't know which one of these is more frightening to me. So I don't know yet. That's not really a persuadable. A real persuadable is, I like what Dave is saying, but not 100%. If Cuomo could help me a little bit more on these issues, I may go for him. That's a persuadable. This is just people who are just so disgusted. They don't know which way to go. This may move the needle in states with that population in a way that could hurt Trump. But I think he's going to raise a lot of money off it. He already has. And I think it was a case that should not have been brought. And it was brought for the wrong reasons.
All right, just a couple things on that real quick, because I don't agree that it's presidential immunity that's the reason why.
Can I get an iPhone 8
haven't been
Plus
gone after.
case off Amazon?
When Barack Obama
Probably, right?
was first
They didn't
elected,
have them at
remember, this is
Walmart.
not Barack Obama the president, or it's the very beginning, but this is Barack Obama the candidate.
The guy was like,
in
that phone won't
2008.
even work in 3 years. I'm like, who gives a fuck? It's 3 years from now. I'm going to fucking use it for 3 years, motherfucker.
There was a lot of pressure on him.
That's not what I
from
asked. I said I need a
left-wing
case.
supporters to
You
prosecute
nerd.
George W.
He was like,
Bush and Dick Cheney and other top
He was like, it won't
members
work
of
in
that
3 years.
cabinet for war
I know a lot of
crimes that had
stuff.
clearly been committed.
I'm just dropping some knowledge
Barack
here.
Obama, gave
Why
a
even need a
speech
case?
about it.
You only got
And
3
he
years
said,
left.
In it, he conceded. He goes, yes, we
Only
tortured
3
some
years.
folks.
Oh.
That's good. He just said it, and he goes, but now is the time to look forward, not backward. Which is a weird thing about prosecuting crime. Typically, you have to look backward in order to do it. But my point is just that the way things really work in the real world is that at the highest levels of power, there's no such thing as law. Okay? At the highest levels of power, all that matters is what's their political will to do. And the truth is there was no political will to try George W. Bush and Dick Cheney for war crimes. There is political will to stop Donald Trump for this. And look, I know you're a lawyer, and I'm sure you would kind of agree on this, that, look, if you had Donald Trump on videotape stabbing someone or something like that, or you had some clear crime that he had committed, and you went, look, we typically don't go and prosecute former presidents, but look, I mean, this is just so, egregious, we cannot. This is, every single one of these cases are novel legal theories where they've come up with some philosophical way.
Well,
where
not
they
all
can
of them, but
spin-
these two New York ones, yes.
Okay, fine. Where they can spin this into something that they never would prosecute otherwise. Just so everybody understands, a hush money payment isn't illegal.
No.
It's not illegal to pay someone to say, hey, don't tell anyone about this.
It's just a contract.
That's right. It's just a contract. What they're saying is that this was a campaign expense, and he didn't itemize it on his business records the right way. And with Cohen's testimony in this, I mean, it's pretty wild that they actually got
they got him
convictions out
because of
this.
the checks, okay? Because Cohen, they had I mean, you can't believe Michael Cohen. But the problem was, this happened. The tape, you have Trump and
Well, at
Cohen
least he
talking
said
about
that.
it. It happened. And Cohen is a rapacious liar. That's true. And you cannot like him for that. But Trump did it. It's just not a felony. And yes, they've gone after people for having two sets of books. Not people like Trump and in these circumstances. Now, what I get beaten up for when I'm in a different room is that I say there's a thing called prosecutorial discretion. All right, the idea that if I have the facts on Dave Smith, I'm going to prosecute him 10 times out of 10. It's not true. There has to be policy involved. Is this something I really care about? Is this the kind of crime we're trying to stop? We live this in your state too. DUI. DUI used to be no big thing. They had 3 different levels of it. Then all of a sudden it became a big policy. And now we all know, I'm sure in our own personal lives, God forbid that happens, how big a deal it is, and they're definitely going to come for you. These crimes are not those things. The Georgia case is something different. I don't know that you'll ever get to hear it. I do see it a little differently, though. I believe that this society does have administration of justice under law. Is it perfect? Of course not. Compare it to other places, looks a little better. But we haven't figured this out. You said novel legal theory as kind of like a pejorative about those New York cases, and I think you're basically right about that. Certainly this one that we're talking about. But there is this issue of this constitutional mechanism that if you're a president, you have to be impeached and removed. And then you are subject to the law. So, and then people will say, I don't know if you guys followed the Supreme Court thing. It was actually pretty interesting, where he was like, so what if Dave and I are running for the same office and he decides to just shoot me in the head while he's president of the United States? Is that okay? And his guys were like, yeah.
Luckily, Joe Biden can't lift a gun.
But he'll take you out back. He'll take you out back. So, look, here's something that I think I struggle with a lot in this business. And this is a Jordan Peterson quote. You have to ignore single factor explanations for complex situations. It's tempting. You want them. You want it to be simple. You want it to be obvious. But very often it isn't. Even this situation with Trump, which I think politically kind of net probably winds up helping him and hurts all of us. Bill O'Reilly suggested to me on my show last night that Joe Biden should do the right thing for the country and pardon Donald.
Hi, I'm Matt, owner and operator at Founding Fathers Pressure Wash.
Trump. He said he should call Governor Hochul, state crime. He should call Governor Hochul and say, pardon Joe Biden. Thank you, genius. Well, if you'd let me finish, you would have heard it. So, but here's the problem with that. What happens if Joe Biden did that? Joe Biden pardons Trump of any federal crimes, okay? And Hochul clears him of this shit so we don't have to live through the sentencing, all right? And just so you know, when he is sentenced, July 11, he's going to appeal. They're going to go to sentencing. Even if he is sentenced, now I was wrong about this case, I thought it would be hung. And I don't think the guy's going to sentence him to time. I could be wrong again. But even if he is sentenced to time, he's not. You're never going to see him in a jumpsuit. He is going to appeal. And there is no reason to have a first-time offender incarcerated for an offense like this, even though it's a felony, it's an E felony.
Well, listen, I'll say...
It's 34, but it's sentencing, it's going to be the same transaction.
I would
it's not
say
that they
this,
caught
right?
him 34 times.
I would say if you zoom out, right, to kind of try to appreciate the Trump phenomenon. And again, I've never voted for Donald Trump, and I'm not planning on voting for him this time. I'm a big critic. I think he failed in a lot of important ways. I think his appointments were terrible. Government spending going up every year was terrible. His handling of COVID was terrible, okay? There are some things I like about him. But if you zoom out and just try to look at this, what Donald Trump really embodied, and I think this was something that you guys at CNN during the rise of Donald Trump could never quite grapple with, and I think this is something that in the corporate media in general they had a tough time grappling with, was that people were so furious at the establishment that they went with the biggest middle finger they could get toward the establishment. And he basically was pointing his finger at DC and saying, drain the swamp. These guys are all stupid. They all make bad deals. I'm very smart. I'm going to make great deals. Yes. They've ruined the country, which this was even at the center of his slogan, Make America Great Again. There's an accusation in there, right? That's like, you ruined the country.
Yes.
And now I have to come back and save it. And this made everybody in the political and media class so furious that they lashed out and attacked Donald Trump. And then, of course, that made him that much more popular with his base, because the whole reason they liked him was because there was a big middle finger to you guys. Right. And it's not like social conservatives thought Donald Trump was their guy.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they were like, yeah, he really believes in Jesus or something like that.
They hated him.
But then, as he starts pissing off all these powerful people, more so that he has the entire media class against him. Then you have, between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the Steele dossier, and the CIA and the FBI getting involved, they all basically try to frame him for treason. And they do this for years. You don't think Comey gave Hillary a mortal injury near the end of that election? I think he was, yes, I do, but I think he was forced into it. Really? Yeah, I think basically, well, listen, let me just make the point I'm making, and we could get into that if we want to. But as you look at this, so they frame this guy for treason. He ends up beating that, although they certainly boxed him in, and he wasn't able to get through a lot of the things he wanted to. Then, in the year 2020, you have what is close to a color-coded revolution as you can get in the United States of America, between the protests in the streets, the attempted false flags, like they did with Governor Whitmore, the October surprise, trying to frame Donald Trump supporters, like this is what the anti-lockdown Trumpers like. They overhaul the way we do voting in this country, feel however you feel about that, and Donald Trump is removed. Since then, he announces he's coming back running for president, and then the Justice Department is weaponized against him. His home in Mar-a-Lago is raided. All of these cases come down against him. we are, I know Tucker Carlson made this point once, but we are escalating here. It's, you kind of wonder, if you map this thing out, where exactly are we going? And it seems to me, from my perspective, that the most powerful people who really run the government, and this never comes up on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, but shocker, American people who are actually a lot smarter than the people at those networks think you are. Did you know that the government isn't run by democratically elected officials? Were you aware that there's shadowy 3-letter agencies that have much more power than the democratically elected officials? Well, those people are letting you know that Donald Trump is not acceptable, and he will not be president of the United States again. Now, what they're prepared to do to make that happen, well, yeah, that's the big question. We'll see. I wouldn't put anything past him.
Look, I don't know about them. I've been doing this 25 years. I'm still trying to get my head around the idea that the FBI is a bunch of lefties. I can't tell you.
They're not lefties.
I can't tell you how different that is than my experience. Good men and women do the job for the right reason 9 times out of 10. I never really had a good relationship with the FBI until Trump was president, because all of a sudden he started attacking all the institutions, in my opinion, unfairly in a lot of cases. And all of a sudden I was defending these people who I always hated because they would never give me any information about their case.
I think there's too much at CNN defending the institutions, Maybe that's not the job.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a weird... look, that's a good argument to make. And it was a weird situation to be in, because I've never had anybody in power attacking everything around them unless it served his purposes in the moment. And it was definitely very odd, even though I had a very strong indication going to those rallies that we were missing the value of his celebrity and how important it was for people to have an agent for their animus. And I thought he was going to win, and I was right. I thought he was going to lose. That was pretty easy. I mean, the election wound up being very close, but he was in bad shape, and people wanted him out. So that wasn't. I think this time he's got a very good chance to win. I don't know about deep state.
Trump's got a very good chance to win.
Of course he does.
If there was a fair election held today, I think there's no question Trump would win.
I'll tell you what, though. I don't know, because it's going to be very close, and unfortunately, the election comes down to about 30 counties in the United States, and there's only one reason for that, and it's something that you probably believe more than I do. The party structure in this country is not a creature of the Constitution. We all know that, right? It's not a creature of law. It's just a tradition. It's a choice. The problem is it's a club structure where everybody in power has got to be in one of the clubs, right? That's the problem that the GOP is dealing with right now. You can't say you don't like Donald Trump because you're going to lose a primary, because very few people vote in primaries. The state party controls the primary, and they're going to beat you because he's going to cut their money if they don't come after you. And I'm not faulting him for that. That's the way the game is played. If I could wave a wand, and not deal with anything that matters to all of us, like the health of our kids and our families and stuff, but our collective polity, if we could get rid of the two-party system in this country, we'd be in a way better place. And here's why. I'm not a huge fan of polls. You can't find a poll where you won't find 3 out of 4 of Americans have the same concerns. 3 out of 4. Common concerns about what you want to see happen, what you like, what you don't like. It's never on the agenda. It's never discussed. One of my problems with this case is we got at least 2 weeks now of lawfare coverage. And 2 more weeks where nobody's going to talk. We're not talking about long COVID, that's for sure. We're not going to talk about any of these things that happened during the pandemic. Nobody's going to bring it up. Bobby brings it up. When Bobby comes up, when RFK Jr. comes on the show, he says he would be in favor of enlisting a pandemic review. I have not gotten a response from the Trump or the Biden campaigns about it. And I don't blame them. If I were them, I would want to move on also. But if you could get rid of the two-party system in this country, I'm telling you, you'd be in a much better place.
And put laundry.
Let me give you a couple dates here. So the date that they put it for the judge is when?
July 11th.
July 11th. Okay, the debate is June 27th. The RNC is, I believe,
4
July
days after
15th,
that. Yeah.
Right? How much you think it's intentional for them to put the hearing 4 days before to make it unpredictable that maybe, just maybe, they're watching right now. Democrats would only do this assuming this is going to hurt Trump, right?
Right.
But reports just came out, Rob, if you can pull up the reports from CBS.
I'll buy a fucking Claritin
in the
tomorrow.
month of April, he raised $50 million
right,
compared to $25 million Biden just in the first 14, 15 hours of what they announced, he's raised $53 million.
Yeah. I'm not
You guys
surprised.
hear that? $53 million he's raised in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And this could end up being a $200, $300, $400 million next 4 weeks.
Well, with this trial, they've undone all of the re-examination of Trump of the last, let's say, year. People have been watching what's going on and figuring out what's going on, watching how he's behaved. I believe all of that was undone with this because his numbers have been struggling. You know, anybody should be killing Biden, okay?
You guys got 1 day a week. You got Wednesdays.
No, but I'm saying just the idea of him should be enough. But all of that review that had kind of mitigated his strength in this country has been erased by this. I'm not surprised he's raising the money. You can get ready to boo in 3, 2. I don't believe they timed it out to make people think he's not going to show up at the convention.
You don't think they timed it out?
I don't. I mean, this is a very typical calendar.
Okay. It's a position to take. They could have done it.
Well, that's true. Nothing about the case is typical. That's true. I just try very hard to take things on their face with these things. And very often the truth is more than enough. What's going to be obvious is going to be more than enough. If they sentence him, it's just such a bad policy move. Now, I know that when I look at my phone, it will light up. Though luckily, most people in the center and left haven't hooked on to Patrick yet, but they will. They will. Because if you want to hear voices and selection, very few people deliver the way he does with valuetainment. So they'll start. So the clips will come out, and then the left will attack me for suggesting that there was something, that this was different because no one's above the law, and he did it, and he finally get what he deserves, and blah, blah, blah. Because I've been getting beaten up for weeks during this trial, which, by the way, is okay. You're a smart guy, and I'm not condescending to you. I like what you do, and I like where you're coming from. It's kind of weird being a libertarian in our system. You don't really have a home, but it does kind of give you an out whenever you want because you don't have to be part of the other two. But, for me...
Yeah, I get to just be right about everything.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. There's a convenience in never having to own any of the conversations. But what I'm saying is...
No, I mean, listen, Chris, I own my track record. I do a show 3 days a week. I've been doing it. I don't know how many of you guys listen to it.
See, they're also condescending, but they're so full of shit. Like, what are you even saying, bruh?
Track record just along.
He's like, you don't have to own your track record.
My track record up there, and I'm very proud of it. So I do have to own something. I was out there in real time, being against the lockdowns, being against the stupid mandates like outdoor mask mandate. It was so. Listen, this stuff wasn't that. I mean, I don't have to bring the conversation back to COVID. Why do you think they did it? But well, listen, hold on. But listen,
right back to fucking COVID again.
Okay, because I have my theories on that, but I don't know for sure. I don't know what's in people's hearts and minds. What I do know is that saying something like, I'm vaccinated and I need to force you to get vaccinated so that you protect me was so profoundly stupid that the second someone said that, I was like, now that doesn't make any sense.
And I'll tell you what, you can look this up for yourselves. There have been multiple studies that show, first of all, just some basic things, right? Hospitalizations, 9 out of 10, once the vaccine came out, were unvaccinated people. Mm-hmm. That should matter, okay? Now, as you went through the iterations of the variants, should they have changed? Yes, 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 but it'll never happen. You'll never hear that where things stand today, because if there's no review, it'll never happen. But the idea of why you were supposed to take the vaccine was very basic. And what did we see as a result? Now, they'll throw numbers about how many people died because they didn't take the vaccine. I don't know about those numbers. Mortality is a very tricky thing to pin down. You died with it, you died from it, I don't know. But here's
exactly. Even Chris Cuomo ain't on that bullshit, Judy.
Right?
Even Chris Cuomo stopped the bullshit, Judy.
General sense of lifestyle, okay? Republicans, unvaccinated, died in disproportionate percentages. Listen, I don't want it to be true. The data is what the data is. And there are 5 different studies on this. Now, die, again, is a tricky thing because, well, is there over-indexed for obesity, heart disease? But they were taking them from the same areas. And it bothers me that it became a politicized decision. And you can't say...
Oh my God.
It was. All of these things became politicized. That's what pissed me off. I didn't go after Byron Donald because I wouldn't go after him anyway. I like having him on the show. I think he's a future of the GOP. I think he's a good guy. I think you guys should take a serious look at him in your state. But
this fucking dude.
You just switched because it was a different president.
He's a clown.
That's all that switched. The whole dynamic switched. That was my beef about that. With the later variants, we really had mistakes made in this, in my opinion. Now, a lot of them will disagree with me and say that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a scientist. It still did what it was supposed to do, and the boosters made up the lag.
They were wrong from day one, Chris.
And they are doing very little to find out what the vaccine is doing in people, and they're doing very little to find out what the virus is doing in people. Well, and all the research that's coming out is saying those are our two biggest issues health-wise that we're dealing with.
Chris, I really hope you read the book that I just gave you, man, because it destroys all of these arguments. Look, the truth is that, and the evidence is overwhelming at this point, okay? Like, you can go through this. It is just pure science, pure facts and charts. All of the lockdowns, you can't find any trend if you look at the lockdown states versus the not lockdown states, or the lockdown countries versus the not lockdown countries, the counties where there was mass compliance versus the counties where there wasn't mass compliance, the counties where there was more vaccine passports versus you can't find any trend in any of it. The truth is that the virus did what the virus was going to do, and none of these government policies did a thing to slow it down. But
you don't think that hospitalizations went down because of the vaccine?
Listen, read the book, man.
God,
I'm telling
Chris.
you. No, it's not a conclusive point. But what these policies did do is they destroyed the lives of tens of millions of people. And by the way, Chris, this is why there's so much anger about this stuff, okay? This is why people are so furious and why people do kind of want to see somebody, because listen, I give you a lot of credit for doing this. Like, I really am grateful to you for being on this stage with me here. The thing about it is like, I think from my perspective, and I really do think I speak for millions of Americans when I say this is all we get. You. Like, there's no one else. Fauci's never going to do a debate like this. None of the other, top establishment scientists will go. Well, hold on, let me finish my point. There's my point. Yeah, because they're cowards and they're wrong. So none of them will go on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? What did he end up? Do you remember the pot that was offered for that doctor who was everyone chipped in? I think you chipped in for it. Yeah, like everyone. He would raise millions of dollars. They won't debate RFK. They won't do any of this, and so it's like, look. I think a lot of people are angry about this stuff. Now, back to the point you were making here, okay? When we're talking about specifically the vaccine passports, okay? This was during the Omicron wave.
Right.
We're talking late 2021.
Right.
There has been, at this point, you had almost 2 years of COVID hysteria, with the establishment being wrong
Thoughts
about
on the Pride
every
speaker,
single prescription
for
along
those
the
that
way.
have just seen
And
it.
meanwhile, there's also mass censorship of any of the experts who come out against it. I mean, the Great Barrington Declaration, that happened in the fall of 2020. This is a full year later after that, after all these experts came out and said the government got this entire response wrong and ruined tens of millions of people's lives. But listen, if you look at, there's no question about...
They were seen as a minority group.
Yeah, but they were a group of experts. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the ones who
I'm just
tell
saying,
the truth.
that was shot down.
If you look at what Omicron did, okay, this was after mass vaccination, okay? It tore through the unvaccinated areas and the vaccinated just alike. You cannot look at one chart and say, oh, look, this area had high vaccination rates, and therefore Omicron didn't really come in here. No, tore through it just the same as it did everybody else.
It tore through in terms of cases, not severe.
We were listening to music all day long, riding around.
I agree.
Not true.
I agree. Well, look,
we can't be watching things like this when we're out riding around.
You can put the data up.
I mean, we could listen to something like this. We could listen to it.
What I'm saying is this. This
is what I do too, with a much better track record, Chris. I'm just being honest. This is the truth.
I don't know that you have a better track record.
Yes.
I really don't know that you have a better track record.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Right.
Do you think lockdowns worked? Did they cause more harm than good? By the way, there was no good that was caused, but do you think they caused more harm than good?
The correct answer is you can look again. I wish these things were that simple.
Look, okay.
I can argue yes. I can argue no. The government will say yes.
No, but I'm asking you.
The people who are in charge of Robert Redfield will say yes.
Do you think that lockdowns mitigated the virus and were not offset by the catastrophic harm that lockdowns caused?
That's a different question. And that's hard to know. It caused so much pain in this country that it's hard to say. How do you value what they believe was saved in terms of lives?
Go look at the John Hopkins study on lockdowns. They looked at all the lockdown areas versus the areas that didn't lock down. They found no difference in mitigating the virus. It was just the disaster. And I was against the lockdowns from the very beginning. I was against the ridiculous outdoor mask wearing. I was against all of the mandates, all of people being deemed non-essential, all of this stuff.
I get it. But it wasn't just America. You make it sound like,
I'm against it everywhere.
But what I'm saying is, but it matters that it happened everywhere. It matters. And it happened in other places longer. And Sweden. Yeah, look at Sweden. How'd it work out for them?
What? Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
So, Sweden, by the way, here's how it worked out for Sweden. Lowest excess mortality rate in all of Europe. That's how it worked out for Sweden.
They had rates of illness in there.
Yes.
And then they didn't build up the herd immunity they thought they were going to by going that way.
Okay,
and the UK wound up watching them and reversing course.
And why is it that Sweden has the lowest excess mortality rate in all of Europe? Because of all of the deaths that were caused by the lockdowns. That's why. They were the ones who didn't do that to themselves. And man, I mean, you look at, Pat brought up the number of small businesses that were ruined during the lockdowns. That's the least of it. And that's huge. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. But you're talking about suicides, families breaking up, children falling behind, just things that people will never, and not just that, but also just, look, here's the thing, right? And this is what I think the media class never really grapples with. If I were to ask you, what was the cost of the war in Iraq? Okay? What was the cost of it? Now, you might try to find what you go, okay, we spent $2 trillion on the war in Iraq. Okay, there were 1 million Iraqis died as a result of that war. Over 10 million were displaced. You could look at the thousands of America's bravest young boys who killed themselves, tens of thousands, if you want to count the ones who blew their brains out in the aftermath of it. Okay? But then you know what the cost of it was? Everything that we're living through today in our country. Donald Trump being president, the lack of trust in the corporate media, the culture war, everyone being pitted. Like, these things have costs for your society down the road that are impossible to measure. And the costs of the lockdowns, it's going to be another 15, 20 years before we look back and really recognize it. By the way, one of the costs of the lockdowns was the Summer of Love. The riots that caused billions of dollars in property damage across you remember the fiery but peaceful riots of 2020?
Yeah, I was in them.
It was, they were, that was a cost of it. I mean, those riots didn't just come out of, it wasn't just a coincidence that they came on the heels of 3 months of lockdowns. Anyway, I'm just saying that,
look, I'm just telling you, the people that I talked to who made these decisions, stand by them and say,
I believe it.
But here's the thing, and again,
I'm sure Dick Cheney stands by the war in Iraq too.
The whole party does, by the way. We went into the wrong country, and you talk about censorship, which is definitely something that is real and is getting more difficult to see. When we started reporting that yellow cake wasn't real, and Wilson came out and all that stuff happened, Bush came out and said, you're hurting operational security on the ground by seeding this stuff. The American people stopped watching the news. And that's what changed the reporting cycle. So I know what it's like to have people come after you and be censored. I like podcasts. I have a podcast. I believe in this space. I think it's the future of media. I think digital media is the future. But the idea that we're in the same space and deal with the same scrutiny and all those things, they're not. They're different worlds. And I talk to the people that you are talking about. So I have an understanding of what's going on. I'm telling you, they stand by their decisions.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing that these people don't stand by their decisions. I'm just saying they're wrong.
Right, but I'm saying it's easy to say they're wrong, but these people where this is all they do say, if we hadn't done those things, there would have been more death. If we hadn't done those things, it would have been even worse.
Here's the problem with this.
So I'm saying let's have a review of it instead of, a podcast versus the head of the CDC.
The truth is we don't
have a panel.
Yeah, well, look, the problem with that is that just like the 9/11 investigation, it ends up being a total sham, and none of the
that commission was not a sham. That was a good report. They had good recommendations.
Remember, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, like as if we actually got to the bottom of it.
There's 7 pages on it in there.
Yeah, and okay.
About the conspiracy theories about Building 7 and what they believe the reality is. It's right in there.
Yeah. Okay, and then they had the 28 redacted pages that stayed redacted for years and years after that, which basically only came out when everyone didn't care enough to find out that there was high Saudi involvement in 9/11, and we continued to prop up the House of Saud since then. and by the way, fought on the same side as Al-Qaeda in Libya, Syria, and Yemen. But anyway, regardless of that, look, I understand that you're for this theoretical investigation into COVID. But here in the real world, the investigation has been done. I mean, the problem with you saying, look, when I talk to these experts, they really believe it. It's like, yeah, except for the head of the CDC who didn't believe it. And what happened to him?
Who?
He was banished, never to come back again, right? All of these people.
Robert Redfield, I just talked to about all of this.
On your show now.
He does not agree with about 100% of what you're saying. About lockdowns, about masks, about the vaccine, about ivermectin, about long COVID, about all of these things. He does not agree with you.
Well, let him come sit
wrong.
next to me and I'll tear him to shreds. And what is he going to say? That ivermectin is horse dewormer? Is that the argument he's going to go with?
It doesn't work in the research for treating COVID.
Okay, but
that it may not hurt you, but be
what...
very careful. Don't give people suggestions like that. That's what he'll say.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't really giving people suggestions on it. I'm just saying it's people medicine.
You know, but what I'm saying is, when you weaponize something like they don't want you to like this is bad, it obviously encourages it because ivermectin wound up having a rush on it. And there's no other explanation for it than that. What I'm saying, and it's not just a theoretical review, it would be a review. And you can have your feelings about what building mysteriously fell, which is point of some conspiracy. I'm saying it was the best chance to get to a better place. And my question about this is, you say there are millions of people. Why do you think that the right fringe of the GOP never discusses these issues? The most aggressive, out there, what they will talk about, Pizzagate, whatever it is, they won't talk about this.
About what specifically?
This conversation.
Well, I think, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think the reason why there's not a lot of political will from the Republicans to really talk about this
even the right
is because, but even then, because there's partisan issues here. The Republicans totally failed the country too on this issue. And, you know, DeSantis here in Florida, I think maybe if you guys are in Florida, you might have the idea that that was like the typical Republican gubernatorial response, but it wasn't. He was the outlier for walking back lockdowns and saying he'll never do mandates again. It was Noem, DeSantis, and Abbott then after DeSantis walked them back. But the rest of the country full of Republican governors were basically as bad as the Democrats.
Listen, the reason they won't talk about it, okay, is because, you know, you say millions and millions.
Listen.
The numbers aren't even close. The reason this doesn't show up in an issue preference thing, like what are you going to vote on? This is nowhere in the top dozen, okay? So that's one reason that they won't talk about it is, why would I talk about what people say they're not going to vote on, okay? The second reason is they don't agree with you, okay? Even the guy who's running the panel in the House right now, who's a doctor, and a Republican and a Trump supporter, okay? He does not agree with your assessment.
I'm not a Trump supporter or a Republican.
But what I'm saying is,
sense.
for putting aside that maybe you should be a little open, that maybe some of these people know things that you don't, and you would want to see that tested on a panel of their peers.
Okay, so
I don't know why we wouldn't all want
that. Chris, listen, it's a totally reasonable thing for you to look at me and say, listen, there are doctors who are saying this. Why don't you be open to they might know some things that you don't? Okay, fair enough. But, you know, I got to say, again, for years, you were the #1 show on CNN, and you never had this energy. You were certain that the unvaccinated were the scourge of America. You were certain, as you told Congressman Donalds, that he was a dummy for not getting vaccinated, even though he had already had COVID. You did not, when you hosted your show on CNN, have the attitude that, like, hey, everybody should stop acting like they have so much certainty. We should all kind of, like, listen to the other side. So it's kind of rich hearing it come from you now.
Because you're not giving me the benefit of the change. In the beginning, the first 2 variants of this virus was a very different proposition than later. Your apology, Christians. I definitely apologize, submit myself, prostrate myself before you for your redemption, that I wish that I had the foresight to be caught up in that mix as we saw that it was changing and not push harder on them not responding to the change. I think it would have really helped. And I'm not saying I would have had that much influence, but I'm saying it would have definitely mattered to the cohesiveness of this country. If after Omicron, let's say, okay, so you're summer of 21 going into 22, mandates are in place. People are starting to buck back in different areas, and you're having spiking things, and they're revising about super spreading and all this other stuff. If at that time there had been a revision of removing the mandates, realizing that the boosters are a maybe, and there would have been a relaxation of it. Now, I'm sure that I'm going to get beat up for this, and they're going to say, wow, you're crazy. If we had done that then, the number, all right, maybe. I'm just saying that in terms of how people felt, and politics is a big part of that. I think and to the little man that you have on your bucket there, when they made Tony Fauci and Birx the spokespeople for the U.S. government, Tony, I'm sure, will second this. I said to him, this is a mistake. You guys elect people, to Dave's point, I don't share the mystery 3-level agencies, deep state stuff, but you elect...
CIA has no power.
It's not that they don't have power. It's just I don't believe it to the depth that you do. What I'm saying is, though, the president of the United States should have been talking to you every day. And he should have been owning the changes in messaging. Trump and Biden, both of them leaned on Fauci. Scientists do not exist in a political space.
You don't think Fauci does?
I'll tell you why. Look, Tony Fauci's problem with gain of function is so typical science versus politics.
It's good
When
evening
you
for
say,
me. What's
as
going
a
on in
scientist,
Norway?
So they said no more gain of function.
How are things
So this
in
commission
Norway?
got together and changed the definition of gain of function. So then we did that research. So I wasn't doing gain of function research under that old definition that you're talking about. To a scientist, yeah, okay. To a politician, you're a dead man if you say that. And that's why he's having so much trouble.
No, I mean, just listen, anyone just being honest would have a problem with that. I mean, what they did in the Wuhan lab was clearly gain of function by any reasonable
well, not by their definition.
Right. They made a snaky definition and then changed it so that he could get away with lying about it under oath before Congress.
Look, but,
by the way, you remember when Rand Paul asked him straight up whether he's getting royalties from the big pharmaceutical companies or not, and he refused to disclose the information? Come on, Chris. This guy is as corrupt as it gets, man. And the fact that you guys all just gave him fluffy interviews through the whole thing, man, was really a disgrace.
He puts out an income statement every year. Comer and these guys have been very aggressive in going after him. They haven't made a single recommendation to the DOJ to follow up on anything yet. They're pulling him back on the Senate. They want to get into his emails. They get into all these things. Why? Because they have this other guy who's called a senior advisor to Fauci. He wasn't a senior advisor. It's a title. I don't know why that guy was saying what they were saying. They should definitely haul him in. They should figure out why he was saying what he was saying in those emails. They haven't tied it to Fauci. And if they do, then they do. But it is a little curious that as enthusiastic as we are these days about prosecuting our political opponents, they haven't even made a reference to the DOJ about them.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm telling you, it's noise.
A very different question. Why do you think 2020, Trump only got 9% of the African-American vote, and Democrats have owned the black vote for decades, since 64. Why do you think it's 22% now to Trump?
I think that there's several reasons, okay? Now, do I know whether or not that's going to translate to the polls on Election Day?
Yeah.
I do not know. Do I think he's going to get 22% of the black vote? I want to be careful. No, I don't. But minority vote is a different thing. The Latino community is the most robust growth and voting bloc in this country. Asian Americans writ large, right? Not just, Chinese, Japanese, but that entire region, Southeast Asia included, East Asia included, is also very robust. He gets a lot of those voters also. Why?
It's all right, I guess. The weather was good
Disgust is in high demand. People are disgusted. I sit in many rooms like this with people who agree with you guys about nothing, but they match your anger. They are very, very angry. I sit and meet and talk to minority people who feel betrayed. They're driven nuts by the migrant situation because so much of the emergency services that get sucked up by that population are in their communities. The change in policing that was supposed to be for them on the left flank has made them more endangered in their communities. The economic recovery, while everybody likes to brag about how good it's been for minorities, they don't feel it. Now, it's not fair to put them all in one block. There are plenty of rich minorities, yes. But socioeconomically, you have a disproportionate distribution, right? As you go down the socioeconomic ladder, relatively, you start having more and more minorities, right? You have more poor white people in the country than poor black people, but by percentage, it's different. That's why they're reconsidering it. That we are in a time of change, and Joe Biden is not getting it done for the Democrats. He is not making their message. He does not seem like, the joke will be, we may not even make it. But he is failing to connect with their base. And they will move. People will move. It can take time, but we are at a low point in our party politics. We have never had two unanimously bad choices for president before in our history.
Yeah, 2016 was pretty rough. But
can you play this clip, Rob? And the reason why I'm asking this question,
Hillary Clinton,
is,
for all her negatives, was no one thought she was going to drop dead. I mean, I know they played.
Yes, no, I get your point. No, listen, it's a fair point.
Do you think black people trust Fauci?
It depends on who they listen to.
Can you play this clip, Rob?
It depends on what you take
I want to show you two clips. Go play this clip. Go ahead.
How you guys doing with vaccine?
I haven't gotten it yet. I'm waiting for them to be able to.
Oh, you should get it first. Okay, that way you won't give it to them.
Oh, I thought I would give it to them if I get it.
No, not at all. In fact, we got to get you vaccinated so that if you were to get infected, you could pass it on to them. So you're actually protecting your family by getting it vaccinated.
Well, I heard that it doesn't cure it, and it doesn't.
That's true.
Stop you from getting it.
No.
So
on the very, very, very rare chance that you do get it, even if you're vaccinated, you don't even feel sick. It's like you don't even know you got infected. It's very, very good at protecting you.
This line sack of shit.
Anacostia, so get up there. Okay.
All right, see you later.
Have a good day.
The people in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot on a vaccination.
Bro, he's a lying sack of shit.
That wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu then, right?
It's much more serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually, too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year, about 20 to 30,000. How many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
The number that you all giving that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You gonna pass?
Yeah, definitely. Because when you start talking about paying people to get vaccinated, when you start talking about incentivizing things to get people vaccinated, it's something else going on with that. Something else going on.
It is something going on.
There's something else.
You're right. But I'm glad millions of people like me and most everybody here didn't get an incentive. You know what their incentive was? Protecting their health and protecting the city. But I won't keep you anymore.
It's okay, because my incentive, y'all campaign is about fear. It's about inciting fear in people. You all attack people with fear. That's what this pandemic is.
He keeps talking shit while they walk away.
You knew there was a camera.
By the way, how beautiful is that, man?
For sure.
Dude, I gotta, after this, I gotta go down to Baltimore. I gotta, with that video, and try to find that house so I can just salute that guy. Isn't it just amazing that what's crazy about it is here you have Fauci and these local Baltimore politicians going through the hood in Baltimore, knocking on doors, and they're wrecking him. And it's not even like, listen, with hindsight 2020, because at the time they were putting out the video and mocking these dumb black people in the inner city don't know what's going on. They were right. And Fauci was wrong. And Fauci was totally It should be, I mean, you should lose your license. You should be shunned from society. For him to make the claim, to look at somebody when none of the trials and none of the data at the time supported this idea that if you get it, you might get sick, but you won't even feel it, and you can't give it to anybody else. This was nonsense. And I heard, actually, by the way, Jay Bhattacharya, who wrote the foreword to this book, he said at the time, he goes, whoa, Fauci is way overplaying his hand. None of the data justifies him making this claim.
It's not none of the data. Here's where they were wrong, okay? They weren't wrong. Here's where it didn't be. Here's where they wrong, guys. You slipped up.
Look, no, they were wrong. I know many people who got the vaccine and got COVID and were very sick and gave it to other people.
So they were wrong. With the later variants. So do I. I know people too. You'd be surprised.
By the way, these are, just to be clear here, just in case, because all this time gets muddled together, okay? Yeah. These are the later variants. The vaccine was not available for the first variant, okay? The vaccine was not available. These are all the later variants are what we're talking about here.
No, that's not true. You had it for the second and third, and then it really dropped off. The first, look, again, the idea that you guys enjoy the owning, I think, is part of the problem, okay? I know there's something satisfying about it, and it works great for media and for clips and to get you enragement. But it doesn't move the ball.
Chris, man, you're telling me we could play that video of the way you and all your colleagues demonized the unvaccinated? Were they not trying to own us? It's only I'm the one who has to own.
Vaccinated.
No, it's in response.
Not getting vaccinated mattered.
Yes, it's in response to all of you guys trying to own us for years from all of the halls of power.
Fine.
That now that you were wrong about everything, we're going to point that out.
Fine.
Yes.
Well, hold on. Two things. One, vengeance. Good. I hope it feels good. If you think it's going to stop it from happening again, you're wrong. You're wrong. I don't think it's vengeance either. I'm saying if that's the instinct, you tried to own us, we're going to try to own you. That's not true. But that's why I'm here. Okay? And that's why I have a show that has guys like you on more than any other show on television. Okay?
Change the definition of vaccine to fit that vaccine.
Yeah. It is true.
They changed the definition of vaccine not for this vaccine. They changed it when they started doing RNA. This is technically not a vaccine because it doesn't make you immune. Now, here's what they got wrong. They do the testing in record time, right, which nobody was upset with when Trump was president, but it gets done.
Lots of people
They were quiet. 95% they say efficacy. What did that mean? 95% was severe illness. Symptoms that you could recognize that may hospitalize you. That's what they didn't have. Not sick. They then took that and made it into a cell of, so if you take the vaccine, does that mean like polio, you don't get it? No. That means that even if you get it, you won't be that sick. And then here's the mistake they made. Because you don't have that much virus in you and you're not that sick, you probably won't pass it on to somebody else. And that was a big part of the cell that became less and less true over time. And the messaging didn't stay.
Okay,
you would
by
call
the way,
that a therapeutic.
But by the way, as somebody who was, and I agree with what you're saying, we were in different positions. You were the #1 show at CNN. I was doing a podcast on the internet. But as somebody who was not in that bubble that you were in, and was talking to experts who were outside of the establishment, the idea that there were going to be variants of this virus and that the vaccine would do a worse and worse job with all of the variants was the easiest thing to predict.
That's not true.
And experts did predict this.
That's not. Yes. No, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying that the people they were using to do the measurements did not see it. And then
no, the people you were talking to didn't. The people I was talking to did see it.
So you were talking to people at the NIH and the CDC who was doing.
No, that's the whole point. I wasn't. So I was talking. But listen, there were plenty of experts outside. See, this is the problem here, Chris, is that you, which is the exact opposite of what the journalist's job is to do, is that you hold up here the government officials as if they're the real experts and nobody else is an expert.
That's not true.
I just gave you a book that was written by Tom Woods, has a degree from Harvard and Columbia, and the foreword by Dr. Badia, he is a professor at Stanford. Okay. These are legit experts, okay? They didn't work for the CDC or the NIH, but the job of a journalist is to always start from a place of skepticism toward those in government.
There's no question about it. And when we went down and it started to change, I wish that I had been more aggressive about that, and I wasn't, because I didn't see it. Now, I've had a lot of time to read into this, especially because of my own sickness. And I see things that most people still don't know and haven't been reported on. I'm one of the only people who reports on long COVID.
Sorry I was an asshole.
I'm sorry you were an asshole.
Not bad. Not bad.
My point is this. My point is this. I don't need to have these conversations. They don't particularly rate well. I get a lot of criticism from people in power. I get
good. That should be a badge of honor, man. You're a newsman, right?
It depends on the look. You don't know me, okay? The idea that I am conflict averse is silly. The idea that I don't test power is silly. What I'm talking about here is you are pretending because you can. You have the luxury of not worrying about what happens when you say what you say. I work for a place that will get a phone call from someone that they care about, okay? It will matter to them. And you can say, well, they work for this 3-letter agency that are all, bad people.
If I had, let me tell you something. This is what's really infuriating about you saying that, right? I understand the pressures at CNN where powerful people could make a phone call and then you could be in a lot of trouble.
No, it's just an accountability proposition.
Let's talk accountability. If I had your track record on COVID, I'd be out of business. Period. No one would listen to me anymore. I would have no way of making money.
Argue the reverse.
I'd be ruined.
I would argue the reverse.
Absolutely ruined.
If you didn't tell people that there were easy ways to get past COVID and that the vaccine was a joke and everything that happened was a joke, I don't think you'd be in business. I think if you weren't doing these things, I don't think you'd have the same platform because it sells very well in digital media.
No, I mean, just first off,
the
I never
coin
said
is
the thing
appreciated.
That you the thing is that
now
yes,
fucking
you're right.
what?
Me being against lockdowns, against mandates, against the corruption of big pharma, yes, that did help.
No,
me,
and the
sure.
vaccine. You don't think people should have taken the vaccine?
I already said that I do think there was a group of people early on who should have taken the vaccine.
What is that group?
I said already, I'll say it. I think old, sick people who had never had COVID.
And the people who were with them?
No, I don't agree with that.
Really?
But I think there was a strong argument for that demographic. By the way, old, sick people who had COVID, probably unnecessary to take the vaccine. Your likelihood of dying after you had already beat COVID once plummeted way down. Natural immunity is stronger than the vaccine, as it is with almost all
And by the
vaccines.
way, it's interesting.
All of the studies show that hybrid immunity, which is having gotten it from the virus and also having the vaccine, is the best level of immunity. That's what the research says.
It's not true.
That's what the research says.
Yes, but to say what you're saying, my dad, when we were talking as a family on who should take the vaccine, should not, what are you going to be doing? Here's what we're doing. I'm not taking it. Wife's not taking it. Kids are not taking it. My dad, who's a conservative, took it. And he was 78 or 79 at the time when he took it. I think something like that, right? 4 years ago. He took it and he got the boosters. 2 years later, he got COVID and pneumonia at the same time at 80 years old. Literally. Do you remember that when he got COVID and pneumonia? How bad was it? Yeah, he was bad. But guess what? He's here with us at 82.
He's strong.
So there's a part of it, I agree. The fact that, for a certain section of a community,
and that's a good point, Pat. But here's the thing: in the real world, what was going on during all those clips that you were showing of them demonizing the unvaccinated? This was, again, to put this in the time frame here, right? This was after the rollout. Okay, so after the vaccine was made accessible for everybody in America, and they really did make it very accessible for everybody. And then not enough people were getting the vaccine, and then they started pushing employer mandates and things like that. Ultimately, Joe Biden lost at the Supreme Court with his OSHA mandate, which would have made every mid-size and big company force their employees to get vaccinated. But at about this point, when there's still some people being hesitant, that's when you see everybody demonizing the unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. When they started rolling these things out, so I know someone, a family friend, right? This is a kid who was at a grad school, 25, something like that at the time. They forced him to get double vaccinated, and then the next year they forced him to get boosted a month after he had COVID. This is a healthy 25-year-old. And so, you could talk about, if you want to split hairs, about the people living with a vulnerable person. No, I think if that vulnerable person got vaccinated, that's enough. But there's just no scientific argument in the world why a 25-year-old kid who's already double jabbed, who just had COVID, a month later should get a booster. And yet on CNN and all the other major networks, they made it seem like that wasn't even a thing. It was just, you're a bonehead, you're an idiot, you're what's ruining this country. And the craziest thing about it was that they were blaming the unvaccinated for why you don't have freedom anymore. Like, they're the reason why all the rest of you guys can't enjoy your freedom, when the reality is, the reason the rest of us could enjoy our freedom was because of the corrupt government who was doing this to us for no reason. And man, it just would have.
But you know that's not true.
No, I know it's 100% true.
No, that's how you
what
feel.
The fuck, Chris?
No, that's
what
what
I
I
believe.
believe. They did have a basis for why they were doing it. They believed that the numbers weren't coming down fast enough. They believed that if they didn't get a certain vaccination rate, that it would stay that way and continue to kill people that they didn't want to die. So they pushed it. Now, you can say I disagree with their findings. That's even more reason to have it all reviewed. I'm sorry, Dave. I don't mean it to be condescending or insulting. I don't mean it that way. But you can't really have the confidence that you know all the answers and there's no reason for anybody to tell you any different. I don't agree with that. There are better answers out there that we aren't getting, and COVID is still making people sick. There's a variant flying through Asia right now that's more contagious than they thought it was going to be. It's going to wind up coming back here. I'm not saying there's going to be anything like what we lived through already. There's no will for it. And no politician is going to put themselves into a position where no one's going to comply. But people are going to get sick in your life, okay? And not from COVID. I'm saying from what happened to them a year ago, 2 years ago. Maybe it's the vaccine. Definitely from the virus, maybe from the vaccine. They're going to get sick. We are not working on therapeutics at the rate. They are not putting the money into research. There are databases, but they are not on it the way you would think they'd be on it. And a big reason is because of this divide. They don't want to engage with a population that they believe is just antagonistic. So much so that even though, and look, all due respect, I don't care who you vote for, the anti-vax Trump supporter correlation is very strong, okay? But his people don't have this conversation with you. You don't have anyone, even Marjorie Taylor Greene is not saying, and yeah, let's not forget about that vaccine. Let's start talking about that now. None of them. And that's what matters to me. You want to blame me? Fine. Good for you. What I'm saying is, what matters to me is that the things that need to be done are not going to happen. If Trump wins, I don't think it happens. If Biden wins, I don't think it happens. And that's why I think there has to be public will for this. So you can be angry. I think it's a great motivator in this situation. There are plenty of things that I think you should be angry about. But what are you going to do about it? The only way you can get any of this rectified is by having a body that has to be respected, put out the findings. Some of them will match Dave's, some of them won't. And that next time, here are your things, you can't do this, forget the WHO, we got to get our own pandemic board back, and here are the kind of people who should be on it. Whatever they come up with, that's the only way. Otherwise, you know the old quote, right? What happens to people who don't learn the lessons? They'll repeat them.
Yeah, well, I sure do agree with that. I think that the silver lining in all of this is that trust in corporate media is at an all-time low. Trust in every other institution in this country has evaporated. And the truth is that you'll never be able to do this to us again because we simply won't let you. People won't believe it next time. And
what is trust high in America today? What is trust high in?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
He's saying if trust is not high in media and the government,
what is it high in?
Oh, well, I think that there's tremendous trust in the alternative internet media landscape. No, yeah, absolutely. There is.
Listen, I'm not saying there shouldn't be. I'm
Look,
saying,
Chris, you could just look at the market on this. Look at the numbers Joe Rogan gets versus the numbers CNN gets. Way more people have flocked over to him than are watching CNN because they trust him.
Look, I'm happy for Joe Rogan's success. Good for him. The highest rated thing in media, and let's just put it all in one basket. You got the nightly news that was supposed to be dead 20 years ago, still gets 9 million people a night. So the idea that nobody cares about that, obviously they do, they're watching. What I'm saying is
versus
this.
40 million. Used to be a lot more than 9 million.
Yeah, but you measure that over a month.
No, I get that.
Not one day.
No. Cronkite used to be the,
Oh, there's no question. It's stratifying. It's changing. And I think that's good. I think it's good.
I mean, I think that...
I'm saying that there's no trust in anything.
No, I don't think you're right. I mean, I think that... I mean, I don't know that I have, like, polling data on this, but I'd imagine if I could poll the valuetainment audience, there'd be tremendously high trust in Patrick Bet David. I'd imagine if you could poll my audience, they would be tremendously high trust in me. That's not true. And look, I understand kind of not wanting to deal with that because it's uncomfortable when you were one of the main guys in an industry as trust totally cratered in that industry. But you can look at this on a poll. Trust in media is at an all-time low
in media since the Vietnam War. That was the turning point.
You can look at these Gallup polls. It's
gotten lower and lower.
Pull up the other one. Not even
Chris, you gotta get off that bullshit.
There's another
Chris.
one. No, it's not. It's
You're on that bullshit.
It's at 23, 27 right
I think it's lower than that. I think
it
may be the lowest, but I think it's lower than that. But the point is, it's low in everything. It's low in everything. And there's a difference between a fan base and brand respect.
No, I don't think that's how life works. I think here's how life works. You got your mom and dad when your parents go through a divorce. At the time, one paints a picture of the other person that you buy into, and the other person doesn't say shit. For 15 years, you think this is a bad person. 15 years later, you realize this person was full of shit. This person's trust is lost. This person's trust is gained. Trust moves. Trust doesn't stay and just disappear 100% against everybody.
Find a graph that shows what has increased trust, spiking trust.
By the way, let me show you this. I want to show you this. I asked you guys a question about the black vote, why it's gone from 9 to 22, and I showed you the one clip. I want to show you the second clip. I want you to see this here. This is Bronx. It's not all black. You got Dominican, Puerto Rican, a lot of that. This is last week, Robert.
Got whites, got Asians.
I want you to watch this clip. I want you to watch this clip real quick, and then we can come back to last thing, because we got 20 minutes left. I do want to hit immigration, because I want to show you guys one clip to get your feedback on. Rob, if you got the clip I texted you, just play the clip. I texted it to you a few minutes ago. I'll put a thumbs up on it. I want you to play. It's a tweet. Chicago One Ray. Chicago One Ray is a tweet. Go ahead and play this clip. Watch this, folks.
If President Trump came here to the South Bronx, would you attend the rally?
Of course. I would want to meet Trump. I want to shake his hand. He's the only president that I see that can ever make America great again. He's capable of doing that.
I would love to go to a rally with Donald Trump come, because I'm a big Donald Trump supporter, and I will support him 100%.
Oh, yeah, definitely we're going to show him love. We're going to show him a lot of love, and, like they do in other states. We definitely need to see Trump here.
There's nothing but love for Donald Trump here in the South Bronx, the North Bronx, the East Bronx, and the West Bronx.
So, tell me...
We want Trump to come back. Please, bro. Biden, get out of here, bro. I would come to the rally and support Trump, because the Bronx need a change, and we need somebody that's really going to help this community.
I would definitely come to a Trump rally in the South Bronx. I like him.
You do?
Yes.
Yes, I will come to a rally if President Trump was to come to the Bronx, and I also would bring other people to come too and support him.
Would Joe Biden get a warm reception if he came to the Bronx?
No, he wouldn't have. And I'll make sure of that.
Reporting for Newsnet from the South Bronx, New York.
And by the way, obviously we all know, according to Biden, none of these people were black. You know that, right? I just want to make sure you know this. It's a delusion.
Just a bunch of white people.
No, it's a bunch of white
people
in Bronx. Yeah. Of course it is. Anyways, okay, we can transition into this next story with the immigration. Here's some numbers that we've seen. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've all seen it. 2016, these are the amount of migrant encounters at the southwestern border over the years from 2016 to 2024. I'm not giving you any numbers. You don't know. Both of you guys know this number. 2016, 415,000. 2017, 526. 2018, 683,000. 2019, 1.1 million. 2020 comes down to 646.
That was
Biden gets elected. 1.956 million. 2021, almost 2 million. Next year, 2022, 2.766 million. 2023, 3.201 million. 2024, year to date, in the first 5 months, 2 million. 1.981. million people. This could be the first 4 million, and it's a record we broke last year. Nobody ever thought this was going to be taking place.
Just to be clear here, these are the numbers of border encounters. This is not the total number of people who have fled into the country. These are encounters that they have.
So I want to start off.
The real numbers are worse.
I want to start off with you. What do you think is the motive for leaving the border open to allow all of these folks to come in here? He has the ability to stop it. He knows it. People who are involved in politics, they also know it. He keeps saying he can't. Why do you think they're allowing the border to be wide open?
It's what his left flank wants. That's easy. It's what his left flank wants.
It's what his left flank wants.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what the progressive base of the party wants.
Why do they want it?
It's a mix of wanting to negate what Trump's policy was, right? Very common. One comes in to undo what the other one did. The number one reason, there are two reasons that the border flow has been so big under Biden. One is there was an implicit message to the hottest regions that come here seasonally that it would be easier under Biden than it was under Trump, that he would be more welcoming. One. Two is when the Biden administration came in, they undid the executive orders that Trump had in place that motivated home country agreements, which was where, and you can like this or not, but it works. The United States would pay a home country to process there. We'll pay, we'll set up the infrastructure, we'll build whatever you want. But don't have it happen here. Biden got rid of all of those. Now, that number does not reflect something that has happened in the last few months, which is we have seen a dip. Why? Lots of reasons. But one of them is he put those agreements back in place. He made, not all of them, not enough. Remain in Mexico is the one that you hear most often. That's a little bit of a token. Only 75,000 people went there. And I know that's real. 75,000 less than you would have had otherwise. But that wasn't what really did it. It was the whole network of them. Those are the two reasons they're bigger now. What I don't agree with is that the reason they're doing this is so that they have all these new voters that will feel grateful to them. No,
Did you hear what Chuck Schumer said today? Let me play this clip, Rob. Play the clip of Chuck Schumer. At least he ain't lying in this clip. Play this clip.
Because he says what you like.
No, it's not. No, but watch what he says. Watch what he says. Because you're saying he doesn't, and obviously the motives, Chuck wouldn't lie, obviously. Rob, if you got it? Okay, go for it. Let's watch this.
Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
I just love that. My favorite part of that is that he's using the old talking points. Like, no one's told him that we've updated this. We don't say this anymore. And even down to he used the old number. Like 11 million is what they used to say like 15 years ago. I know, but I'm just saying 11 million was always the estimate. But that was the estimate during Obama's first term. They used to say 11 million. And then you add all these numbers and you're just like, hey guys, how is the number still the same?
No, they don't know the number.
Well, listen, here's the thing, right, Pat? And this was, and I remember this well, because I used to watch a lot of cable news during Obama's years. And during the Obama second term, I remember specifically, all over the place at CNN and MSNBC, they would just talk about this openly. And what they called it was the browning of America. Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Joe Biden and all types of big figures in the media and political class would brag about this. And they would say out loud that our plan here is that listen, look at the demographics. This was their term. Demographics is destiny. And the Latino vote overwhelmingly supports Democrats, and they're the fastest growing demographic in this country. And so you do the math. What does that mean? It means Democratic majorities in perpetuity. And they were very open about this, that, hey, they used to say it about Mitt Romney when he was running. They were like, this is the last dying gasp of, the white majority in America, and soon you're going to be a minority, and you can just deal with whatever we want to do at that point. And then when Donald Trump came around and did something that nobody else in 2016 was going to do, which is he made immigration the center of his campaign. That was he rode down that escalator
Bush
and gave
sucked.
that first speech that this is what we're going to do. We're going to build a wall and deport all illegal immigrants, and that was what his coalition was built around, and it took off and was wildly successful. And to be fair, much more than I thought it was going to be at the time. At the time, I didn't think that was going to be a rallying point the way it was. You live
First
in
time we've ever had an issue tied.
I'm going to test this real quick.
But so Donald Trump came down and talked about this, and only then was it that the people on MSNBC and CNN decided it was racist to bring up the brown guys. But then they were like, anybody who says this is a neo-Nazi, basically. And they said, but I'm like, I remember hearing Joy Reid say this just a few years before she decided you were in it. Literally, I hear Joy Reid going, I'm a neo-Nazi. I'm like, bitch, I remember you saying that, like a few years ago. But so, look, here's the thing, right? So then when Donald Trump comes down the escalator and he makes immigration the center point of this campaign, this is what, the entire establishment, the Democrats,
I think I got this set up nice now.
and most of the media class villainized him for.
We won't even need another phone mount. We'll put that other phone in here. There's a little bag thing.
They attacked him ruthlessly for this. Then he won the presidency. They attacked him ruthlessly for the kids in cages. Even when Politico was using pictures of cages Obama built, they still attacked Donald Trump for him, right? And now, what's very interesting dynamic is that because, as you said, 2020 was this crazy kind of exception year. So in that year, immigration actually was way down because no one was allowed to leave their house. So I don't think immigrate anywhere. And so it wasn't a major issue of the 2020 campaign. However, in the years since Joe Biden came in, and I think part of this is what I think you were kind of alluding to in your answer.
Good.
Saying build the wall, deport them all, and then you got another party who says you're a horrible racist, and then that party gets in. You got to send a signal to the world. Oh, the guys who are easy on immigration are in now. Now, on top of that, there's all types of UN-funded NGOs that are like sponsoring these huge waves of people coming in. Dude, there's always been a big business appetite for cheap labor, obviously, because big business likes cheap labor. But the interesting thing that we're living through now is that the crisis has gotten so bad, and also with some savvy political maneuvering by some Republican governors where they've sent them into blue areas, and then as soon as the migrants get into blue sanctuary cities, they go, now it's a crisis, But now everybody essentially has recognized that this is an unsustainable crisis, and it's Donald Trump is in a position where he kind of wins the day on this issue because everybody in power demonized him for taking what now seems to be a fairly common sense position.
Well, he definitely wins the issue because Biden spent 3 years allowing him to own it as president of the United States when he could have done something. And again, I told you guys this earlier, even though I've been in this business a long time and it is a simple business, it's a soundbite business, it's an enragement business, I see a lot of layers to things very often. And 2 things, 3 things, 4 things can be true at the same time. We do need
phone mount here.
People to fill jobs in this country.
We'll put the other phone here.
To have
got the bag,
immigration that works here for this country. You also have to have a southern border that's secure and processed.
See, I got this cup now. I won't hit this fucking
on the southern
tire.
border about what they want, what they need.
Hanging
The
off
people who are
this
doing the job, CBP,
bag.
they never start with a wall. Okay, what they start with is rule changes on what is asylum, because economic asylum is not asylum, and that's not what we're tied to under international law. We don't have to make it that. And they want rule changes. They want processing agents. They want places to put people because they are under tremendous emotional strain with what they have to see and do every day, more than any other police officers we have. That's what they want. And they want all the borders, but it's not just a wall, right? You need sensors in some places, you need drones, you need all this different stuff. And they want to double their manpower. Nobody gave this to them. That's not what Trump gave. Why? Couldn't get it through Congress. Biden didn't give it to him. Why? Can't get it through Congress. Do you need people to come to this country? Yeah. Are they taking your jobs? No. They're jobs that are open because we don't want to fill them.
Also, by the way, to your point, Donald Trump for his first 2 years had Republican House and Senate, and they still just to
because they're wasting time trying to repeal Obamacare. Why? Because that's what they thought the base wanted. That's my point about the pandemic. Is you have to make them think that's what you want. Otherwise, they're not going to act on it. There's no upside to this. All right? Nobody wants to sit between.
Grab her by the pussy.
Nobody wants to have themselves reviewed. Nobody wants anything, especially when they can't beat the other party with it. Immigration is a great issue because it allows, and the left has opened themselves up to this. If you don't want a bunch of brown voters who you think are beholden to you, then why are you doing this? And they don't have a good answer. So it opens the door to a theory about it being replacement. And Trump did talk about it in a way that was offensive and beneath the dignity of his office. This is a nation of immigrants. Yes, you have to come the right way. No question about that. But he was delivering a different message because there was reaction formation to what the left and the diversity crowd on the left was pushing, and it's called white fright. This is I probably get more in danger, especially when I was at CNN. I thought this was going to get me fired, this particular issue. I was wrong. But white fright is real, okay? And the response to
white fright.
What's the matter? You don't like having to share your power? Is it sorry you're going to have to earn something now? Oh, that's what you're supposed to say. I say, but they believe this. There are a lot of white people in this country, and they believe that the culture is being redesigned to exclude them, and they think their kids can't get into schools, they think they won't get jobs, they think these things.
I don't know if they think those things. I mean, DEI is the law of the land.
No,
they're openly discriminated against.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they think it wrong.
Yeah.
But so, you are not allowed. You've never heard anybody talk about that.
Well, listen, I'll just say this, okay? If you were to turn on the corporate media, you'll hear about whatever white fright or DEI or how there's such this racist portion of the country. Trump supporters are so racist. I don't know. I think from what I've gauged in this crowd so far, it's been a fairly Trump-friendly crowd. I don't know. You guys like Donald Trump? Okay. I see a bunch of races of people. I see this show is being hosted by an Iranian guy over here. From
a huge insult. That's all right. We'll take
I didn't say Persian. I said Iranian, right? Whatever it is.
We have a few
just saying,
Syrians in the house.
If you turn off cable news, turns out this country's actually pretty cool, and we're not that racist of a place to be. There really wouldn't be much.
I think the media is an echo of what you have two teams that are about. The reason that we're in the situation that we're in is that division is the best currency in politics.
Yep.
It works the best, okay? Enragement works in media, digital, linear, cable, doesn't matter. People being angry, they'll watch. They'll come in. Everybody's got a reason to be angry about something. The only thing that can happen in a two-party system is exactly what we're living. Zero sum. I can only win if he loses. It is way easier for me to make him lose than it is for me to prove to you that I am better. It's way easier to find something with him that's wrong.
Perfect.
That's what they're doing. And it's been, you used that this has been accelerating or evolving, this dynamic. I agree with you, but in reverse. I think it's a devolving. I think that this is a breaking down of civility, of decency, of compromise, cooperation. You say, I want to get into Congress, I want to get things done, I'm going to work with the other side. You are a dead man in a primary, especially on the right. That's what this is. The only antidote is bottom up. It will never happen top down.
Well, the thing is that we're in a collapsing empire right now, and that's our job is to try to right this ship. But we're in a late stage empire, and that's what America is. And this rarely comes up in corporate media, but the USA is the most powerful empire in the history of the world, and we are the global empire right now. We're in the very late stages of that with all of the characteristics characteristics of a late-stage empire. And what are those characteristics? Being way too expanded militarily, being very, very far in debt, and then what ultimately happens after that? The culture devolves into decadence. And that's why things are dumber than they've ever been before. And that's why, you have people, whether it's like a gay pride parade where two guys are like slapping their butt cheeks together and then they're going, we're standing up for our rights. Like, no, you're not. You're not fighting for rights. This is decadence. When you see, if you look back at, say, like William F. Buckley's firing line, when it would be William F. Buckley going at it with Gore Vidal, okay, well, just the level of intelligence there between that and like Sean Hannity going at it with Don Lemon, no offense. There's been a significant fall off. And I think that's what's going on all throughout the country. And what's happening is that the most powerful people are trying to pit us against each other so that we're constantly fighting in a culture war so that we never all get together and realize that, you know what the left wing and the right wing of the culture war have in common? Both of their dollars been destroyed by the Federal Reserve. Okay? But that never gets covered on CNN. You know what I mean? Like I never see like a big segment about that. Hey, how come all those years having the #1 CNN show, not one segment about the secrecy of the Federal Reserve, the secrecy of the CIA? Instead, all we get from the corporate media is, I don't know, the unvaccinated, the Trump supporter, the Biden supporter, pitting Americans against each other and all the while blaming the American people for these problems. When that's just not true. Most of the American people are good people. They want to take care of their family, go to work, be a member of their community, try to give their kids a little bit more than they had. That's what, and if we had a better media in this country, they would be laser focused on the halls of power and how corrupt they are. Because man, is there a lot of corruption going on at the top here.
Yeah, it's not fair to put it all in the media, though.
No, I'm not putting it all.
The media.
How about a lot?
The media,
I'm putting a lot of it on the media.
The media is an echo of society. What you see in the media. Okay, then tell me this. What do you watch? What do you watch? What do you watch? People watch what they like. People watch what confirms what they believe.
Yeah, but that's a really condescending way to look at people. Listen, let me just say something. So when I want to...
So you think you say a lot of things on your show because you think people aren't going to like them and they're not going to agree and they won't watch you anymore?
If you want to honestly ask this question, yes, there are a lot of times where I say things on my show that I know my audience will be upset with me for. There's a lot of times when I know there's positions where I could get way more eyes on me and grow my audience, but I don't take
You are
that
the
position.
most amenable libertarian I have ever talked to.
No, I'm just an honest person, man. And it's totally like, it's totally...
You are so insane.
No. But here's the problem, Chris. And maybe this is the problem. Maybe this is the problem with a lot of the attitude in the corporate media is that that's what you think of the American people. That you just want to listen to.
People.
That's just
they're not
no.
libertarians.
But what you said before that was not about me, and that's what I was responding to. When you say that people just want to listen to whatever confirms their bias. I don't think that's actually true.
But that's what does well in the media. That's all I'm saying.
No, but I'm saying I don't think that's true. I disagree with you. So I'm saying I don't think that's true. I don't think that Joe Rogan just confirms the bias of the people who listen to him.
Rogan,
and I don't think that...
Joe Rogan has a unique platform. He is a unique figure within that world.
Yes, right, okay. Anyway, listen, when I try to figure something out, like I've done like... a bunch of like debates and shows about the war in Gaza right now. I've done like 8 debates on this topic. What I try to do in preparing for that is I read the smartest people on all sides of the issue.
And they told you that Iran was shocked by what happened on October 7th?
No.
That's what the smartest people told you? Because I heard you say that on a show with Ella Laban.
Okay, well, let me just finish making the point that I'm making, and that actually, you know who said that? The CIA said that.
No,
but anyway, let me get back to...
The CIA did not say Iran was in shock on October 7th.
Yes, okay. Anyway, let me get back to what I was saying.
Go ahead.
So I will read Benny Morris, who is a world-renowned historian, but is very much on the pro-Israel side. And then I will read John Mearsheimer, who is a big critic of the Israeli lobby and the current war here, and lots more people like that. I think there are lots of Americans who are smart about this stuff and who do actually search out people who have different views than them, especially intelligent people who have different views than them. And listen, man, I'll tell you this, for example, for me, if I just supported Donald Trump and would just go, I'm on the Trump train, 2024, it would, I promise you, grow my audience, grow my bottom line, make me more money. I guarantee that 100%. The reason I don't...
Picking a side outright definitely helps.
Yes, no, right.
There's no
and
question.
the reason I don't do that is because I just don't see that the guy's learned anything from his last administration to this one, and I think we're going to have all the same problems in the next administration that we had in the last one. But for you to just say that, like, as if everybody who hosts a show, or if you're saying me, I host a show, I just tell my audience what they want to hear, that's just not true.
No, I don't mean that that's all you do. I'm saying that there is a proclivity, especially when you're a solo act doing things, and you bring guests on. Again, I've watched 19 hours of your stuff. I watched comedy, I watched the skank thing, I watched what you do with all this stuff.
Dude, so awesome. I got Chris
debate.
Cuomo watching Legion of Skanks.
I watched
in preparation for this podcast.
I watched the debate that you had about why you're a libertarian and you don't want to pay taxes and all this. And I would listen.
I pay my taxes in case anyone's listening.
You have
to.
You have to. That's why. So look, I want everything you are saying about people having curiosity and reaching across to be true. I just don't live it as a reality. Now, is it more true in my personal life than it is my professional life? Yes. Why? Because in our regular lives, we don't talk about most of the things that you see on cable news or politics. People don't talk about it as much. They talk about their kids, they talk about their interests and their passions, and whatever big things are happening. That's what they talk about. But once you get into Thunderdome, it's all about division all the time. So I'm at News Nation, right? Which I went to because I liked what the guy who runs it, this guy, Perry Sook. He owns the most TV stations in the country. And he has his cable one now.
All right, Chris.
He was like, look, I just want you to have people on from across the spectrum. Just have them on. I was like, oh man, it's going to get loud. You know, and he's, you know, that's not normal, the decorum that they want, you know. It's not the Legion, but I mean, it's, you know, it's usually, you don't want to have people going at it. The audience will say, I don't like when they talk over each other. Well, that's what happens when people have conflicting ideas. So I went there for it. And they're really trying. They're really trying to have people have a range of representation in terms of the people who are on camera being transparent about what they think about things. I think it's kind of dangerous for journalists. But I think that we've kind of evolved as a culture, not devolved, evolved where people want to know where the people on TV stand on the things that they're talking about. It used to be that you didn't want to know so that you could believe that I was just, you know, dealing with both sides. Now I believe you want to know. And then you'll see how I deal with both sides. But that's just my opinion. But I see the struggle that News Nation is having by not picking sides. And I see it in the ratings, and I see it in the trends of stories and how they're covered. You know, even this trial, if you are not, he's going down, or this is a travesty, this is the worst, you're not really getting a percentage of the audience. And I think that's part of the reality also. Now, do I believe that you can get past it?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Well, I do know about it. It's a fact.
I'll give you another fact. I'll give you another fact.
Alternative fact.
Just 5 years ago, Rogan had Bernie Sanders on. That's the guy he voted for.
Right.
And his positions have changed tremendously from where Bernie was then.
Yes.
To where he's at today.
Yes.
How come he hasn't lost following? I don't think it's about picking sides, guys. And I'm going to give it to you as well, and then we'll wrap up because we got to finish up. It's 9:07. We got to go to the lounge, cigar lounge, have a couple cigars, and have somebody go home and do their things. I think in regards to News Nation, say, well, we don't want people talking over each other. You know who proved that model wrong? That's Piers Morgan. He's killing everybody on TV and podcasts since October 7th. He's the #1 podcast from October 7th till now. TV show, what he's doing with his programming, bringing everybody in, and Bassem Youssef, you had him on, we had him on, and oh my God, 38 million views. He took advantage of this. It was kind of like the Morton Downey Jr. to
Boston should have a show. You guys know who he is?
Yeah. And then also going back to you, to Dave, I don't think it's about whether I guarantee you if I go to Republican, I'm going to get more. I guarantee if I go to this, I'm going to get more. I'm staying as libertarian, all this other stuff. I think there's also a level of growth for you, for me, for all of us. What do I mean by this? And Elon Musk was never Republican. Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk was not a fan of Trump. and Elon Musk was a complete different guy, okay? He's got more popularity and trust today than he's ever had before. People are following him. He's doing what he's doing, right? He was a guy that was on the left. Then he saw the hypocrisy. Then he was a little bit more of a libertarian, but he realized, well, libertarian, you're just not going to win. Look who you got this election. That guy's not going to win. You know it. You can like him. He can be a nice guy.
No, man, he's going to be the next president of the United States.
Right, exactly. Yes. So you have that part, but watch what they're doing now. And Elon Musk and Trump and Tucker. If somebody told you 8 years ago, 2016, how Tucker was thinking about Trump and the stuff that was leaking, and what Musk was thinking, that 8 years later they could be between those, that's not called they're pandering to win more. I think they're sitting there saying, let me just finish my thoughts. I want to listen to you guys because we want to wrap up. I think that's more sitting there and saying, you got 4 years of Biden to look at now. Almost 4 years. You got 4 years of Trump to look at now. If I'm sitting there and I got two people coming for a job interview, this guy comes here, so listen, I noticed the last 2 years you haven't worked. What happened? Oh, I had a sick family member I had to take care of, and it's been that's why I've taken 2 years off. Yeah, yes, or maybe, according to me having done thousands of interviews, you had a job that fired you. You don't want to put it on your resume because you don't want me to make the reference call. That could be the case. Now, this other guy here, I look at his resume, and I'm like, okay, while this guy was doing this, he's done this, he's done this, he's done this. He's won in media, he's won in business, he's won over here. Yeah, if I pick this guy versus this guy's resume, when this guy was in town, there was Russia, Ukraine, and we gave a bunch of money to Ukraine. He became the greatest.
We got to get that power bank tomorrow.
And Israel,
I might get that
Hamas,
one that's like 24,000.
And then let me see what else is economy. Oh my God, the middle America is getting destroyed.
That'll keep these phones charged all fucking day.
The Max 7 is making all this money. Oh, look how much billions these guys are making money. But what I thought Democrats were for the poor and Republicans were for the rich. But most of the top billionaires worth over $100 billion, 80% of them are for the left. Why are they giving money to the left? I'm confused.
I gotta lay this phone down. I gotta charge this
There used to be something we used to think about with ISIS. ISIS disappeared. There was no war. Nothing happened with Ukraine and Russia. Nothing happened with Israel and Hamas. In North Korea, Russia, Putin, Xi. Wait a minute. I got these two guys. And I know you guys like to say you have the worst of two. I don't think you do. I think one side, we have a resume that shows us results on what happened. This other side, we have a resume that shows us chaos. Chaos, complete chaos.
That is the exact word that the other side uses to describe the other resume, because you're leaving out who was in there.
Did you hear what all those black people were saying?
All seven?
You think it's only seven?
I think that if he gets more.
But wait a minute.
I did.
Okay, how many people show up when Biden goes out there and campaigns?
Not as many, because he does not have the celebrity value that Trump does.
It's not about not as many. I think what's happening in America, there's a part of it. If it was a Republican establishment candidate that was doing all of this bullshit that's taking place, taking advantage of the other guy, going after the guy on the left. So let's just say the other guy's an anti-establishment Democrat, RFK. Let's say RFK is the Democrat right now, and Trump is the Republican. And if Trump was the president today, and
latest poll has Bobby beating Trump.
If Trump was the president today, and RFK was the former, and Trump was court, DOJ, documentation, everything, I'm willing to tell you, a lot of Republicans would have gone from here and said, listen, man, I just don't like the way you're treating RFK. I'm supporting RFK. I think there's a group of people right now as Democrats and libertarians that are saying, I'm sorry, this year I'm going this way.
I don't know that Democrats.
I mean, just to back up your broader point there, I mean, there were hundreds of counties across this country that went for Obama that then went for Trump.
Yeah, let me say this. Go ahead, Dave.
He's greatly discounting how much Trump makes people feel both ways. You have more voters than we've ever seen before say, there's nothing that could make me vote for this guy, and there's nothing that could make me not vote for this guy. We've never seen anything
I think he's definitely the most polarizing figure in modern American history. I think he's probably less polarizing this election than he was in the 2020 election. And I think that's just because Joe Biden's done such a bad job.
I got to think about it. I think that with this New York thing really changed the dynamic for me. I see it being perceived differently. I think people really believe he's a victim, even when they say he did it. which again, I've never heard of before. I've never heard of people saying, yeah, he probably did it, but they shouldn't have done this to him.
Well, it's interesting in a way because I do think there's a point to that, right? That like even if if Bill Clinton had mishandled some classified documents, they weren't going to raid his home over it. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, he did, and they didn't. And I do think that Joe Biden had a pitch in 2020 that he doesn't have.
Hey, don't say that. Trump could lose.
And his pitch in 2020 was, let's go back to normal. Look how crazy the last 4 years are. I've been the guy who's been in Congress for 17 centuries. Yeah. Let's just go back to normal old Joe Biden. COVID was that year, right. So he could not campaign much and kind of defend it by saying, hey, I'm being responsible.
It's always different when you have a record.
Now, but also I think there was a big narrative that was blown up, and I actually understand where a lot of people in the corporate press kind of embrace this narrative because I think it was a much easier one than to look at what was really going on. But I think they kind of felt like Donald Trump made things crazy. Like everything was kind of going along the way it was, and then here came this guy, Donald Trump, in 2016, and he made things crazy. When really, he was a symptom of the problem, not the cause of it. And you found that out when you removed him in 2020
Rob,
and put Joe Biden in there, and it was just as crazy.
Watch this clip here.
Still
you said
is.
Democrats don't vote. I want you to play this clip, Rob, if you got it.
And he does
pull this
stir
clip
the
and we'll
pot
wrap
like
it
no
up
one
here.
else I've ever
Go
done.
ahead, guys. Watch this clip here.
I voted Democrat. You Puerto Rican, you know, you're Spanish, you live in the hood, you're supposed to vote Democrat. But once you start waking up to, you know, the biggest mistake they did was mess with Trump because that woke up a lot of people. And what they're doing now is waking up even more people. So you would never guess all these people here for Trump. You would never see it. Before, you couldn't even see that in 2020. You wouldn't see it. But now you're seeing it. The worst thing they did is do what they do. What they doing to him it's just making it easier for us to go on the other side. What they doing to us, the American people and the working class, you making us go somewhere else. You losing.
You could definitely lose.
I would never,
a lot
ever,
of retards
ever,
out
ever
there.
vote for them ever again. Not locally, no state, federal, nothing. It was a lifelong.
And that's a Democrat. And there's a lot of people that I think feel that way right now in America. So anyways, gang, more than anything else, for all of you guys watching out there who are with us, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, a lot of times when this happens, people send me messages. I'm like, listen, ask the source. Rob, if you can put up their Monex, you can Monex them directly and they'll get back to you. Whatever side, you agree, disagree, respect, whatever you want to say, you get to communicate with these guys directly and they'll respond to you. For the audience out here that are still here with us, and you as well, you've done a great job. I know it's late for you, but I think you've been fantastic.
On the outro.
It's late, but he's 82. He wants to get some rest. You will. Can we make some noise for what a phenomenal job both of these gentlemen did being out here? I appreciate you guys. Chris,
Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
And also the entire crew here. Music, background, everything you guys did. This is the best one you guys ever done. Shout out to Kelly, Rob, everybody else here. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night. The future looks bright. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Patrick David, how about him, huh?
Okay. There it is. Thank you for the 20. And we're done with that. Now what? Thought it was pretty good. Cuomo was a clown, though. I still kind of like him, though. Might hop off here for tonight. Lots to do tomorrow. I'll go live when I leave the house. And we'll probably be live all day. Rolling around trying to make some money. Any final words before I go? I didn't know Trump gave a 33-minute fucking speech about all this shit. Damn, I didn't know Tim Dillon went on Tucker Carlson. I might listen to that when I go to sleep. All right, I'm going to hop off. I've been on this bitch all fucking day. Well over 10 hours of streaming. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll listen to some of the music tomorrow as well.